The Atlanta Falcons in their first season under head coach Arthur Smith went 7-10. Now, if I was making a list of the most surprising teams in the NFL from this season, the Atlanta Falcons most definitely would be included on that list. Now, I know that 7-10 is not going to be impressive to a lot of you guys out there, but you have to take it into context. If we were to go back in time to 1 week before the start of the regular season, and you were to come up to me from the future and you tell me that the Atlanta Falcons are going to win 7 games, I would have laughed at you. And I probably would have told you to bet on it, because I would have been feeling pretty confident at the time that the Falcons wouldn't win 7 games. And I didn't even think that the Falcons were going to be able to win more than 5 games this season. So the fact that they won 7 games in their first year under head coach Arthur Smith is a huge accomplishment. Now, the Falcons didn't really fare all that well against some of the best teams in the league, but when they played some of the average or below average teams this season, they were pretty good. So the Falcons, you look at the state of their franchise, they definitely have some positives that they can take away from this season other than just the record. Like, you look at rookie tight end Kyle Pitts, you can already consider him a top 5 tight end in the league, and this is only him coming off his rookie season. Like, tight end is not one of those positions that you can just easily come out of college and have success in the NFL right away. Like, there is a transition period for young tight ends in the league. Normally, we don't see young tight ends break out until about their second or third season in the league. Okay, it's not like wide receiver where you just go from college, you get drafted into the league, and you're having a Jamar Chase kind of season as a rookie. That's common. As a tight end, what Kyle Pitts did this past season was not common, because when you're playing that tight end position, going from college to the NFL, there are a lot of young tight ends that struggle early because you got to learn not only the route tree, but you also have to learn the blocking scheme, pass blocking, run blocking. Like, there are a lot of nuances to playing the tight end position. And when you get into the NFL, especially when you look at what Atlanta asked Kyle Pitts to do with the ways that they utilized him, lining him up all over the field, like, he did a phenomenal job this year. Like, the transition for a tight end to college to the NFL can be kind of rough. Now, you look at on the defensive end of the football, oh my goodness, AJ Terrell had a hell of a year. And there are a lot of Falcons fans who are upset because he didn't make the All-Pro team, which is understandable. Like, you probably could make the argument that AJ Terrell deserved some Pro Bowl votes, some All-Pro votes. I'm not going to say that I would have had him on my All-Pro team, but you definitely can say that he was a top 10 cornerback this season. So you have some 2 good cornerstones to build around for your franchise moving forward. You got AJ Terrell on the defensive end, and you got Kyle Pitts on the offensive side of the football. But what about the future of wide receiver Calvin Ridley? Now, Calvin Ridley didn't play that much this year. He decided to step away from the game to focus on his mental health, which I have no problem with it. You get what I'm saying? However, what's going to happen with Calvin Ridley? Is he going to get traded out of Atlanta? Can Atlanta find a way to resatisfy him and keep him settled? Because, being honest with you, I don't really think that the Atlanta Falcons are in a great spot, at least from a offensive standpoint. Because if you lose Calvin Ridley, who else do you have at wide receiver? Pretty much nobody. I mean, Russell Gage is slated to be a free agent. Tajay Sharp is slated to be a free agent. So the only people you really still have, if you were to take away Calvin Ridley and the pending wide receivers that they have, who are slated to be free agency, who are slated to become free agents, you really only have Zacchaeus and you have Christian Blake, really. So Atlanta has to bring in more talent and more depth in the offseason at the wide receiver position. And if you trade Calvin Ridley, of course, they're going to try to make sure that they get at least a first-round pick out of it, and they're probably going to end up trying to improve that wide receiver position, rather it be free agency or via the draft. Then defensively, you probably need help everywhere when it comes to your pass rush, secondary, safety, corner. Like, you need help at almost every position available on the defensive end. So for Atlanta, yes, they went 7-10, and 7-10 is a very good start to any first year's head coach career. Okay, but at the same time, I want to see how much this roster is going to improve this offseason, because the Atlanta Falcons aren't in a situation where they have a lot of cap space to work with. As a matter of fact, they have negative cap space, so they're going to have to clear some of that out. Then what's going to happen with Matt Ryan? You know, like, what's the future of Matt Ryan? Now, Matt Ryan, I don't feel like he was awful this year, but he definitely wasn't great. He definitely had one of his worst seasons in recent history. So what's next for him? Do you keep him? Do you still feel like you can win with Matt Ryan? Or do you try to trade him to a team that needs a quarterback that's in a position to win now, like a Denver or maybe Pittsburgh? So what's Matt Ryan's future going to be in Atlanta? Okay, and even if you do trade Matt Ryan, who's going to be his potential successor? Because his potential successor definitely isn't on the roster right now. It's not Josh Rosen. It's not Felipe Franks. So who is it? So you're most likely going to end up having to draft a quarterback, because it really wouldn't make a lot of sense for the Falcons to try to trade for a quarterback, especially when you look at the kind of cap constraints that they're working with this offseason. So if they trade Matt Ryan, you're pretty much going to end up being put in a situation where you're going to have a below average bridge quarterback, or you're going to have a very young rookie quarterback starting for you next season if you opt to get rid of Matt Ryan. So what's the future going to be for Matt Ryan with the Atlanta Falcons? And you can't really put all of the blame for Matt Ryan's season, well, disappointing season, on him, because he didn't really have the best supporting cast. Like, really, the only reliable option he had to throw to was Kyle Pitts. Without Calvin Ridley, you didn't really have that true number one wide receiver on the outside. So for Matt Ryan, there really was only so much he could do. And you got to remember that when you're a quarterback at the stage of his career like Matt Ryan is, you're not in a position where you should be carrying your team week in and week out. The running game has to be there. You gotta have weapons. There was a reason why Tom Brady left New England and joined Tampa Bay. It was because he realized that at this stage of his career, he's not good enough to carry a team that kind of is lacking in talent, which is why when you have a veteran quarterback that's in the ending stages of his career, it's very important that you make sure that you have the best team built around him as possible. So for Atlanta, if you're going to bring Matt Ryan back for another year, or you plan on letting Matt Ryan retire as a Falcon, the Falcons have to make sure that they put a lot more emphasis on improving the whole entire supporting cast for Matt Ryan. Because essentially, you look at Matt Ryan and you keep it Matt Ryan still shows that, hey man, like, we can still win with this guy. So for Matt Ryan at this point in his career, I still believe that he's good enough to win a playoff game with. However, if he has the right pieces around him or the necessary talent around him. And that's what Atlanta has to do. And with the way their salary cap situation is looking right now, they're probably going to have to renegotiate. They're going to have to let a couple of guys walk away who they might want to bring back. But overall, the state of the franchise for Atlanta, I'm still in wait-and-see mode. I'm not going to say that this franchise is moving in the right direction, but however, I really do have a lot of optimism based off what they did this past season, year one under Arthur Smith, going 7-10. But I'm still in wait and see mode because there are a lot of positions that needs to be addressed for the Atlanta Falcons. But this definitely could be a team that next season in 2022, when the 2022 regular season kicks off, they could be a team that ends up going from near the bottom of their division into being a playoff caliber football team, because this team won 7 games despite not being one of the better teams in the NFL, despite not even having an average roster at best. Like, the Atlanta Falcons probably were below average. If we were to rank every team based off talent, the Atlanta Falcons probably would be near the bottom of the barrel. So 7 wins, when you look at the talent that Atlanta had going into this year, is a huge accomplishment. And you probably could say that the Falcons overachieved this year. So state of the franchise for the Atlanta Falcons, more of a wait and see approach for me, because there are a lot of huge question marks that have to be decided. So you guys let me know how you guys are feeling about the state of the franchise for the Atlanta Falcons down in the comment section down below. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you check out the JT Sports Podcast. Every video that is uploaded on the channel is available in audio format on every single podcasting platform.